upgrade your shit.
What's up, everyone? I'm Coach RT3.
I'm Not a What?
And we're the Upgrade Guys. Today, we are happy to have with us Miss Allison Tibbs. She is a wellness coach, does a lot of stuff with corporates, also has a lot of knowledge about self-care and that sort of stuff. And we're very happy to have her on so we can expose her to all of you and have a nice chat. So let's jump this off real quick. Allison, tell us about yourself. Tell us your background, where you come from, where, like your origin story.
Oh, my origin story. All right. Well, it's interesting to be in this wellness space, fitness, because this is not where I envisioned my life being. I thought I was going to be in this corporate marketing world doing, being this big boss with a corner office and a view of, Central Park or something. And just got so burned out probably 10 years ago. I was 25, totally burned out, and did this whole Eat, Pray, Love year where I went to Europe and just spent so much time just alone and working on myself and practicing self-care. And when I came back to the States, all of my issues came back. The weight gain, the panic attacks, the depression, the anxiety, just like everything seemed to come right back. And that's when I knew that the importance of taking care of yourself and using fitness and nutrition and rest and regeneration is so important. And I just started to share that on social media. Like I think Twitter at the time was what was the social media platform of like the time. And people were like reaching out like, oh, can you train me? Oh, can you do this? And I'm thinking, no, I don't do that. I'm just doing it for myself, selfishly posting on social media. And then it just clicked. If so many people are interested in this, why don't I dig deeper into this? And that's where I started to get curious about what certifications were available. And I did life coaching certs and personal training certs and precision nutrition certs and then just everything. And 10, 11 years later, it's just really become something that I'm really, really passionate about, because I think back to where I was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, and realizing that journey was not easy for me to overcome a lot of my things. So now trying to pay it forward and doing the best that I can and staying up to date with everything to keep the education going.
That's what's up.
How did you, what did you do before, you said you were in the corporate world. What did you do before jumping into wellness space?
Yeah, I literally was working for the man, honestly. I was working for the largest media company in the world at that time. And, I came out of, from the age of 14, I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be in marketing. I'm going to be in PR. I'm going to do all these things. And I finally got there and it was doing well to be a young Black woman in America. The job responsibilities that I had were amazing, but I just felt so unfulfilled at what I was doing. It just seemed like this rat race. And I remember it was like an April morning, and I was laying in bed. I was living in Brooklyn, New York at the time, and I was laying in bed about to get up and get ready for work, and it felt like someone put bricks on my chest. I physically could not get out of bed. And it literally shocked me. And I started crying because I was like, what's happening? So I'm thinking, am I having a stroke? Like, I thought something really awful was happening. And in that moment, I just did a flash forward of my life 40 years from now and thinking, if I feel this way every single day to go to work, this isn't a life that I want to live. And it did something in me. It made me curious about what's possible. And it made me curious about, why am I settling for this life? And it was so counterintuitive, I would say, for me, because I was living in New York when it was like that first big hit to the financial industry. So I had friends who were in banking. I had friends who were working on Wall Street who were getting, pink slips, people losing their jobs. And I had this moment of, I should be grateful to have a job that pays me well, that allows me all of these luxuries in life. And at the same time, I felt like I was betraying myself and betraying my purpose. And, finally, I just had to just really get my shit together and say, you can settle for this and this can be your life, and it's going to be full of more depression, more anxiety, more like bad choices of everything else, or you can choose something different. What that looks like, I didn't know, but I think we all come to these parts in our lives. I call them exits. Like we have an opportunity to exit. And how exits typically come, especially on long road trips, you have an exit, and then if you don't take that exit, you have to wait. You have to wait a few more miles, a few more minutes, hours, whatever. And I was at the point where I can't wait for another exit to come. I have to do this now. So that's what really prompted me to start getting curious about what is possible.
What was it like? So when you made it was a cognizant decision. You're like, I got to see what else is out there. So what was the first thing? Like, walk us through that first few weeks or few months of that.
It was just the curiosity, and it's interesting. Like having this conversation with you both right now is because I look at how I apply that to working with clients as well, like this level of curiosity, not just in, your training, but just in everything. And so for me, the first few months leading up to that, because that was April, and I didn't make a decision to leave really until September of that year, of 2009. And from April for September, it was a lot of like, why do I feel this way? And what got me to this point? And starting to look for mentors, starting to look for people in other industries that I could resonate with. And at that time, I still didn't, like I said, I didn't think wellness and fitness was it. I thought maybe I'll be an entrepreneur, because I also knew that I'm a horrible employee. So I think it was more of like, you don't like being told what to do. You just don't. So realizing that, but really starting to look at my networks, looking at who I was surrounding myself with, and where were they going in their life, and starting to align myself. And it wasn't about like judging myself or measuring my success, but it was, I want to be in circles with people who are smarter than me, people who seem more fearless than I am. So learning through osmosis, because I knew on my own I wasn't going to make that decision and jump. I would have settled. So that was I think the biggest thing for me was upgrading my network. Literally, that's what I did.
Yeah.
Upgrade your shit.
Yeah.
Upgrade your shit.
Yeah. So I was hip to the game years ago. I didn't realize.
See that? This shit been coming to this. All those roads been leading right here. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that I like the way you phrased that whole, like, there's exits, like kind of like we're on this freeway or this highway in life. We all kind of get on there and we're going through this grind and we're stuck in traffic and like we're yelling at the next driver and like all this shit is going on. And like you see an exit and you're like, oh, it looks like there's a park down there, but you're like, no, but I got a place to go. I'm supposed to go this way. And like you might see another one on the way, like, hey, here's a little off ramp, like you could go off there, but something keeps us glued to the road instead of exiting. And I kind of resonated with me because it made me think about like when I exited to leave the United States altogether, like that was literally probably my last exit point to like have an opportunity to go abroad, because I was almost 30. So it's one of those stages where you're like, okay, I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. I'm about to turn 30 next year. I guess I should take this opportunity now. Like I can just pick up and leave, and having 2 kids now, like Nat and I, we got kids now. We're like, yo, we got to make all these decisions and we got to take other people into account when we do it. And that's the thing that people don't see, I think, sometimes. Like when you're alone and you're single and you're like, yeah, I do this. And I go and I spend a weekend to myself and I just kind of think about and I plan out and it's like, yo,
not
we
me.
can't do any of that.
I think relating to the highway thing, I love that. But like whatever keeps us on the road, like I think for Rich and I right now is like what keeps us on the road and having to or purposefully ignoring the exits, so to speak, to some degree, in some ways, but then also jumping off on exits in another way, is like our families or the need to take care of our families keep us on that road, right? Like we know like that destination point is that we have to get here because that's always the main goal. And I think for you it was a career path, right? And what you'd always thought you were going to do. So I think like that thing that keeps us on the road is always a little bit different, and it's not always like do you exit or not, but like which exits do you take and when. Like for us, we exited and did the online thing, right? Like we'd been looking at that. We passed that exit fucking how many goddamn times?
A lot.
Right? And then finally we was like, fuck it. Like we jumping off the exit now.
Remember,
like,
we was all talking about it. We like I was talking about it with you, Allison, and
Exactly.
Nat, we were talking about it, and like you were like, I'm making this thing and I'm doing these things on the side, but nothing. Like we couldn't do it fully.
Right.
And then it was like,
because our workload of in-person people was the thing keeping us on the road at the time. Right. Like all those people were in the car, and not everybody. Like, we couldn't keep everybody in the car and get on the exit.
Right.
So.
Snaps. All that. All that. All that. Because, and I think, too, Nat, like, what I had to realize is the duality of both, right? That there are certain things that do keep me on the road. And still to this day, like, there's certain things, like, I'm feeling I need to exit certain things, relationships. And, again, that's a big part of self-care is knowing when to exit and paying attention to the signs, listening to your body, and I'll kind of share a little bit in a second about that. But there's a duality. There's certain things that keep us on the road because it's tied to our values, our principles, who we are, our responsibilities to our families, our loved ones. I mean, even for me now, like I'm thinking, with everything going on in the world right now, I'm thinking about my responsibility to my ancestors at this point. Like it's just a different feel, and so that's resourceful things keeping you on the road, right? But then for me personally, fear and ego kept me on the road too. Fear of what is beyond that exit. Will it work? Ego, do I have what it takes? What if I fail? What if I look stupid? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying something brand new. And there has to be that moment where you hold tight to the resourceful things, but you have to start slowly lowering your connection to those other things, because if not, we stay on the road because of the things that are like fear, ego, and we become resentful of the resourceful things keeping us on the road. Now it's, my family, I'm doing all this for my family and I'm not getting enough respect, or I'm here trying to make a point or save whatever it is. Now we're screwing ourselves over, and then, like Rich said, you're on the road, you're yelling at people, you're upset, and you're not being your best self. And that's not the purpose of this proverbial highway of life. We shouldn't be like that.
Life is crazy, ain't it? Like, what the fuck? How the fuck did we get to where we at right now? Think about that shit. We went from being in caves and being low on the food chain to fucking sitting in a room with these fucking things, like, talking about shit that's gonna be transmitted to, like, whoever the fuck picks it up. How the fuck did we get here? Think about that highway. Yeah. From an evolutionary perspective, a really short amount of time. Like, that's fucking nuts.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
like,
it's crazy. I mean, no, so, like, based on what you just said, like, we're at the stage where everyone's making content for social media or making content for these things that did not even exist, like, 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
5
like,
years ago.
If, like, new people to Instagram or whatever, like, if you just got on Instagram today and you see all these features today and you didn't evolve with it, it could be overwhelming, right? You're like, oh, my God, like, I just won't go on there. But, like, when it first started, it was like, post your picture. Post a picture,
with a
use
filter.
these filter. Use this filter to make it look cool. And then it was like, hey, you can make a 15-second video. And we're like, oh, shit, what do you do with that? And some people jumped on it, right? Like, so evolution and all this stuff happens, right? And they jumped on it and they were like, oh, I can use 15 seconds? I can show you a quick workout in 15 seconds. Like, what? What? Exercise 1, 3 seconds, squat.
It's wild. And it's wild, too, especially in the line of work that we do. I mean, I personally think that I want to say this correctly.
Not on this podcast.
Well, I want to say correctly because I want to honor the craft. I want to honor our craft because I think that during this time, especially with all of us moving to virtual, I mean, at least in some capacity, we all had to make a shift from technology. And to see how it's evolving, like our whole industry is evolving now. Like it's no longer you go to a gym, you go to a studio. Like now there's Instagram, there's, you know,
Tonal.
You know, which like
Peloton.
Yeah, like all this like
upgradeguys.com.
Peloton doesn't even the upgradeguys.com. Make sure you go over to the upgradeguys.com and go ahead and sign up for a membership. By the way, that's an advertisement. By the way, we advertise our own shit.
We are sponsored by the upgradeguys.com.
Sponsored by.
I'll co-sign. I curse a lot when I do. Like simple, like what is that? Like literally simple stuff that you'll have me to do. It's like rotate your hip. It's like 0.2 degrees. And I literally feel like it's like my whole ego.
Like your hip is just saying like, fuck.
Right. It's like you're an asshole. You don't do anything. Like, how do you even walk down the street? Like, it's amazing that I can do half the things I do. And then you do that and you're like, I ain't about nothing, y'all. I can't even like videotape it. Like, I can't even show people, you know, because then it's just like, so this is my trainer who can't even like.
So, but you see my struggle now when we make content, right? Like, we have to think about that shit because the specificity and the detail of what joint specific work is, like, oh, look at this motherfucker move his foot 2 inches. Oh my God. Like, nobody care about that shit. Like, you have no idea. You have no idea.
So that's
you just
good.
sitting there.
Yeah.
You guys just sitting there. Like, oh yeah, okay. So everybody that's ever come to our class has been like, why am I sweating? I had a dude that had been DMing me for a while, and I told him just go ahead and get the intro to mobility. And, just start with the cars. And, like, we'll do this sometimes. Like I said, just go in there, get it, and then DM me. You can send me videos if you want. Like just show me what you're doing and let me know how it goes. He sent me a message back. He was like, okay, so following you for that 30 minutes of cars, and I was sweating, and I don't know why I was sweating just doing that thing. And then the hip thing is what, like, he was like, my hip doesn't do that thing that you were asking me to do with it. And I was like, yeah, because you don't have a fucking hip.
Yeah,
I didn't say it like
hips.
that. You know,
All right,
I was nice to him
it.
because he's a cool dude, but, you know.
Yeah, we don't have hips, all right? Thank you. We know. We know.
So this is my thing about why because I feel like throughout my career I've like done the strength thing, the hit thing, I've been in a few different places, but I've finally like felt at home here because when we're back to the highway, when I feel like if we're talking about just movement or life as the highway, oftentimes when you're on that highway, like, you just be honest, you're not totally paying attention. Sometimes you drift off, like your mind goes places. And you are literally in control of a fucking how many 1,000-pound piece of fucking metal that could end your life or somebody else's life. But we become complacent with that shit because we've done it so much. And we don't really know what's going on with the car. Our brain is not really here, right? So we sort of disconnect. So if the highway is like life and the vehicle is our body and then we are our brains or our center or whatever, like where are the disconnects between those things? And how much of that road noise gets drowned out? How much of what's going on underneath do we feel? And, like, how much are we really aware of about what's going on? To me, that joint-specific work is the thing that gets you to you. It's the process of you knowing yourself better. And I think for me, just in my my history, I've had to do a lot of things where I had to ignore parts of myself to just sort of survive, I guess. And maybe that's why, for me specifically, the joint stuff speaks so much to me, because when I sit down and I'm just in me and I'm just there and I like, it's not some type of fucking like religious or like spiritual thing where I'm like, getting in touch with the universe or whatever, but I'm getting to know me better. And I think that when people are not good at that. People are really good at ignoring themselves and like not listening to what they need and opting for the thing that's distracting as opposed to the thing that's going to serve us. Like when I see you post about self-care, I'm like, I wonder if I should do some shit like that. But then I'm like, I got to go do this, right? I fucking missed the exit, right? But that little example, that was my way of saying I should fucking took a bath one of them fucking things.
Yeah, I think
bath with some candles and shit.
It'll change your life.
Have Raider Nation, Papa, what are you doing in there? Papa, are we going swimming? Motherfucker, I'm trying to take a bath.
See, that's what I'm nervous about having kids. That's like one of my biggest fears, is because bath time is such a ritualized thing for me. And I had one of my clients start doing like regular baths and like, candles and music and just get quiet. And she's like, my daughter just always would strip down and hop in the tub with me, like, no, like all the time. She was like, and then one day it happened. She pooped in the bath.
Oh.
And she was just like, what do you, and I was like, is that a thing? Like,
That's a thing.
That's a thing?
It happens.
Thing, Allison.
See, I'm like very nervous.
But it's so, but meditate, like the mobility work can be meditative,
Yes.
right? Because
It is to me.
you're breathing, you're focused on the breath during the passive hold portion of it. But as you said, getting in touch with yourself, isn't that what meditation is? You're getting in touch with yourself. I was listening to the end of 21 Lessons of the 21st Century by Yuval Harari. That motherfucker owes me money right there. You owe me money because I said your name and your book. You owe me.
You keep saying this. You've been saying his name a whole fucking lot lately.
I know.
Yeah, and
He gotta owe me. He gotta owe me some money.
I'm about to check it out
But
now.
anyway, I looked at the end. I was listening to the end, and he was talking about like how he got to where he's at mentally, or like how he got to writing the book that he's written. And he talked about a process where he had actually. It's funny enough. We're talking about this exits because he was speaking about. He said his friend invited him to do this meditative thing, and he was like, nah, this meditation stuff is for whatever. And he said it took him a year to come around to the point where he went and did this meditation thing class. And then he was like, once I got into it, I was like learning about myself. He was like, I had never been connected to my mind. And there was a disconnect between myself and my mind. And when he was like, when they told me to sit here with my eyes closed and breathe, and then I would do that, and then like 2 seconds later, I'd be drifted off to thinking about something else. But then the guy was like, come back to thinking about just the inhalation and the exhalation. Just keep bringing yourself back to the point where he's like, oh, I could do this for 10 seconds. He basically he was missing an exit, right? For what he was being, someone was asking him to do something and have a moment of like self-introspective work. And I think a lot of people with like mobility training, as we're talking, a lot of people are like refusing that exit. And some people are like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna get off right now because whatever we might have said on that day resonated with them in a certain way on our post that turned them to say, you know what? I had some shoulder shit, and he said something about his shoulder, and it seems similar, and it resonates, and I think I need to look a little bit further into that. So it's almost like Nat was saying, like you're on the road. How often do you pay attention to the stuff around you because your head's down on the road and you're kind of like disassociated? But when we're driving, we're going at such a speed where we don't see the stuff off to the side oftentimes, like when you're walking, right? You take a chance to sit down and breathe. And so you're walking and you're like, oh shit, that coffee shop is here. Where is that then?
Right.
Like, I didn't even know that was here. Well, because you didn't take a time to slow down. You still want to do your stupid ass CrossFit shit. Yeah, I said it. Barry's boot camp, motherfuckers.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, but that is it. And that's why I think I gravitate to self-care so much, is because it's not a fixed thing. It is not a one size fits all. So I'm always telling people, it is the intentional practice of taking care of yourself. And in order to take care of yourself, you have to understand yourself, know what you need. Because I could say, oh, I take baths. But if that's not what you need, then it's more anxiety and stress for you. And we don't pay attention and we don't listen. And we think that in order to, I mean, even people say, oh, fitness is my self-care. Okay, yes. Yeah, sure, right? Like, I'm not going to say that it's not. But the intentionality around it is, if you're already stressed from your day, and then you go in a state where your body is already in this hyper stressed, hyper sensitive, like the sympathetic system. I mean, it's, and then you put 100 pounds loaded up on your back and your spine, and you're jumping up and down and doing these things, like you're just creating more and more stress, and what you're feeling after is just the release of you stopping your body from moving. So that feels good. But as you're in it, your body is like, give me a moment, please. And so I always tell people it's a mix of a lot of things, but the beginning of it is you have to listen to yourself. What do you need? And it's not just listening to what you need, it's giving it to you. Like you have to give that thing to yourself. So sometimes I'm sitting there and sometimes I'm just not breathing properly. I'm breathing in my chest and like, oh, I just need to breathe into my diaphragm. That's what I need right now. And that's self-care. But sometimes it's, something else. But we've misconstrued it. We've made it all weird. We've made it all,
Our reward systems are fucked up.
Right.
Right? Like you were saying in terms of the workout, oh, fitness is my self-care. You might have heard that somewhere, or like maybe you really believe that. But Rich and I talk all the time about intention. We're always saying, like, if you're always switched on and you come to the workout and you do some fucking hit workout or you do some fucking hardcore WOD or some shit, you didn't do the things that you needed to make that appropriate for you. 2, the stress that you're feeling, the relief you feel after is because literally your body's like, oh, now I'm not doing that stupid ass shit anymore. I'm not trying to do an overhead squat with weight that I can't hold overhead. I'm not trying to fucking jump over this fucking box and I can't jump in the first fucking place. I'm not trying to do a hit workout where I think that I'm at high level when my high level is literally is somebody's zone 2 because I don't have an aerobic base, but I'm trying to do the thing that's hard for somebody with an aerobic base. That makes no fucking sense to me. At fucking all.
And it's the fit, and that's where we are. That's
where we are.
That is literally it.
Right.
I mean, how many times have we had clients where their complaint is, I didn't sweat enough in that workout.
I need you to kick my
Right.
ass.
Right.
I'm not into some weird,
Yeah.
like masochist. Like no. I have no desire to ever do that. Like the only time I'm going to do that is if I genuinely do not like you, and that's what I like. That's my intention.
Right.
And that's very rare in my life. There's a short list of people that are on that, like that would get that. So it's so you're like the reward system, our priorities. And again, I tie things always back to fear and ego, right? It's like our egos get in the way of our training so many times because that's just what you're supposed to do. I mean, like, I almost died at Barry's boot camp once. I've only gone to Barry's twice. And like literally,
That was twice too many times.
I mean, well, I legitimately like tumbled on the treadmill.
Oh, fuck.
And
in the dark.
And like, thank God for my impressive core strength and like somewhat of ability that I have. I was able just to grab onto the handles as my feet are literally like on the treadmill. And the guy next to me was like, girl, stand up. I'm like, well, don't you think I would stand up if I could? Like,
motherfucker, what you think I'm trying to do?
This is not, and I'm thinking to myself, Allison, you know better than this. Like, why would you even do that? And it was just a moment of humility, and I'm like, okay, I'm human, and I get roped into things too, but it was such a good reminder for me. And I told everyone, I wasn't trying to hide it. I was like, listen, this is where we are now, and if we don't take that time to be intentional and to listen and to pay attention and take your ego out. Like, I didn't have to be at a 12 on that treadmill. I could have been at a 6. Mm-hmm. It's dark. No one would have seen me.
And this is the thing, right? You're athletic. You're in this space. You are the population that's like, oh, that shouldn't be an issue. Imagine people who don't do that for a living, don't know about how this stuff really works or how to take care of themselves or to prepare for these things and do that. Because I know of 2 other people who are like, you call them general population, who have been hurt at berries. And one of them, she slipped something similar to what you said. Her pants ended up getting caught in the treadmill, and she was left like butt naked on the floor. So like, not only physical injury, but that's that's why I got a thing against these fucking people who like, how much money can we make out of a class? Like, and I'm gonna say a bunch of fucking names. Y'all gonna be mad at me. CrossFit, Soul Cycle, Orange Theory, Berries, all this fucking bullshit that you're calling fitness. And you're not doing that. You're not fucking doing that. You're bringing people in and you're trying to make them feel bad about themselves by making them work as hard as possible so they have to somewhere inside be like, why can't I do this shit? I need to work harder.
I want to interject and say there's different types of self-care, right? Like, I read a post on Instagram, there's a page called So You Want to Talk About or something like that, and it has like all these different
They gotta pay you too now.
yeah, a lot of different things. Yeah, they need to pay me too. Everybody gonna need to pay. Fuck you, pay me. There was one that was talking about like, let's talk about self-care, and it had like all these different things like physical self-care, emotional self-care, what else was there? There was like financial self-care. So they were breaking it up into all these different categories. I assume you target mainly like the physical, emotional. What would we put eating under? I mean, I guess it would be holistic.
That's physical.
Yeah,
That's
physical.
kind of physical as well, right?
Yeah, nutrition is part of your physical health, well-being.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of look at it as one starting with self. And I think that's the one thing is starting with yourself first. And if you just pay attention to what you think you might need or what feels off, because sometimes I think where people struggle with self-care is that they don't know what they need. But to just start being curious, like that's how I started my journey. Like, what's possible, and like why when I go into this meeting do I feel anxiety, or why when I wake up every morning do I feel this way, or why am I so agitated, or my breathing. To start, I mean, and even around money. Like I've had one client where whenever she talks about money, it's real stressful for her. And so part of it was like, okay, let's just create an opportunity for you to start saving money using an auto saver app so that you don't have to think about impending doom of not having money. And it did. It made her feel better. Her anxiety was actually decreased because it makes it a, if I can't do this, then I can't practice self-care. Like I've had clients say, well, I don't like kale, so I can't eat healthy. And I'm like, that's not how it works. It doesn't work like that. But we believe that, and it sucks. But I think, Nat, to your point earlier around listening to our body, being connected to everything, and understanding what's going on, and then being able to start slowing down, trying new things, you start to realize, oh, I actually do enjoy my mobility work now. Now it's not a chore. It is actually something that is giving me life. It is improving my quality of life. I don't have to normalize tight hips. I don't have to normalize pain in my back. I don't have to normalize all these things. I can actually do something to change it. That's important. And so that's where I think that's how you build your self-care practice. It starts with yourself. And then you choose. Whatever you choose is on you as long as it supports you. If it doesn't support you, don't do it. And it might change.
It's funny. Something popped into my head randomly. I don't know why we know random shit, man. Like we just like. Did you know there's a lipstick index?
Huh?
A lipstick?
Yeah, there's a lipstick index. I think it's by what's one of those companies that create lipstick.
Like MAC or Revlon or.
You found it was Estee Lauder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because they were talking about that. When you think about self-care, it's one of those things that happens during times of crisis, and they notice that that women buy a lot more lipstick during times of crisis, which is freaking insane. I don't know how they managed to tie this together, but like there's a lipstick index. Look it up. There's a lipstick index. But what the question was when after shelter in place, was there going to be a lipstick index because people are wearing masks? So like the idea of actually going out and buying lipstick when people aren't going to see your lips, like that doesn't like what that doesn't make sense. So what they were predicting then is that they would have more sales in like nail polish, eyeliner, things that are actually visually going to be seen. And sure enough, I mean, I saw a line outside of like the Mac store in Burlingame, and I was like, how is there there's a line for makeup right now? It was shelter in place. There's like a line for makeup.
You're not going anywhere.
Oh my God. People are not going, but they need their eyes to look good. And I'm like, that's good. Like, good for you though.
But I bet I would say twofold. I think it's one, knowing that, okay, you're not going anywhere, you're in your home. So it's doing something that makes you feel good, right? Like just the act of doing that, but also it's a sense of normalcy. I think like, let me do something that makes me feel like how I used to before all of this. Um, but it
Casey
is
does that.
interesting.
She does her hair and her makeup every once in a while. I was like, you should go put on your clothes and do a fashion show for me and the twins. Like, we let you
Yeah,
dress up and shit. Go do that shit.
I love that. I think more people should do
Yeah,
that.
she wasn't going for the fashion show part, but probably because it was my idea. I bet you if you told her, she'd be like, "That's a good idea." Shit.
I'll drop it. I'll drop that little nugget there.
That's
Like
why.
here,
That's like when you
here's a
told my
tip.
wife to do hip cars, and I've been telling her to do hip cars
Yep.
for ages. Nat
And
suddenly
she's
come
like,
around and be like,
"Thanks, now to what?" I was like,
You're welcome.
"Oh my god."
"That's just the way it is."
But like honestly, this whole situation has been so for me so interesting to watch human behavior and what do we gravitate towards and what do we shy away from or what do we amplify during this time. Like even this idea of fitness because I feel like I think people are more open to trying new things like working out at home. I think this is a prime time for stuff like when you all launch your platform, right? Like people are at home. Like there's the level of excuses to not do it are there. I think too people are curious because now they're feeling it. They're feeling things differently in their bodies that they haven't felt before because we're not ripping and running the streets. We're not running from meeting to meeting. We're sitting all day on Zoom. We're doing different things. So people are like, oh, okay, now I understand like this pain or this discomfort that I'm having. So people are getting to the internet. They're trying to see what's out there, what's available. Because I'm sure if we looked at how like a Google search of some of the most, the things that people are looking for to find relief right now, I think it's people are going beyond like let me just work out more, go for a run. It's like what can I really do that's going to make me feel better during this time, and hopefully once we get out of this or whatever that new way of life looks like, I can still maintain and keep going and improve my quality of life. Because people are tired. People are tired of feeling stressed and sick.
I mean, the mobility work is like a form of physical self care, right? Because when you're talking about self care in all these different spaces that you're talking about, you're in essence talking about being able to increase one's capacity to withstand like the different forces acting upon us in life, right? So, um, when we're talking about anxiety and depression and all those things, I don't think that those things are ever not there. It's just how you're able to manage those stresses that influence those things are either better or worse. Either you have the capacity for it or you do not. And so helping build those capacities for that is important. And that's I think what we do with mobility training, or what we're trying to get people to understand, is like there are things that you want to do. There are things that are stressors in your life that you enjoy, whether that be cycling 40 miles, rock climbing, playing tennis, golf, whatever it is you do. You've got to increase the capacity for your body to be able to endure and withstand those forces over time.
For me, that mobility work is self care though, because like that's what like after everybody goes to sleep and all the lights are off, I'm just like in the front room, and that's sometimes completely in the dark, and I'm just doing my thing, right? Just fucking seeing like uh, relating to what you're saying. Like we don't like now that you're not ripping and running the streets, and you're just at the Zoom thing with yourself, right, or with your family members. There's less distraction. And especially in times of hardship, people look for distraction, I think, because it's everybody has a different way of dealing with their shit. Some people like to just be head on and like let's fucking handle this shit. Some people like, oh, I've got to kind of be over here a little bit before I start to acclimate to it. Some people just want to be completely blind to it and be stuck doing whatever. For me, that mobility work is self-care because I'm spending so much more energy doing home stuff and family stuff now that when I'm used to spending all that time on the floor or actually being, visibly fucking productive, I guess people would say from a career standpoint. And now that time to myself is even more important, I feel like, even if it's just for 15 or 20 minutes. And it still makes you feel like you're productive, and it lets it also is like that's food for your brain too. It's not just moving your tissues around. That's food for your brain too. And it does it being with yourself and just like figuring out what you do have or what you don't have or what you need more of, or like knowing that it's going to take some time, and you can chip away at it. I think that like having the app in the back of your mind thing, that's something too. It's almost like putting money in the bank account, right? For whatever's going to happen physically.
Yeah. It's all connected. It's all related.
Shit, we don't know what's going to happen. Shit might crack off any second.
No, but you know what? Speaking of like online stuff has like clearly been like that's what people are searching for, right? Like, and so like the fact that we immediately pivoted to doing, to putting what we do face to face with people in a space that's now available for consumption by other people. I mean, there are plenty of times I gotten messages from people asking me like, can you train me? Can you do this? And a lot of what we do to some degree requires us to be there with a person and trying to figure out how to package things in such a way that we're not only being true to the person, but also true to ourselves, and the quality of what we do is what has always been a challenge. And that was one of the things that we always kind of said, well, how can we make sure that that the value is there and that we are giving people as much quality as we can, notwithstanding being face to face with a person. And so for me, like all of my clients get access, to our membership. I assign training for them to do on the own, and it actually has bolstered like what we do, because now it's like, oh, I'm giving you some extra homework. It's not just like verbally saying like, here, I want you to do this thing, and this thing. It's like, no, go do this particular class here on Tuesday, and now it's like, oh, now, and for anybody watching out there that say they're doing their stuff, just know that on the back end we can see whether you've been doing the stuff or not. So
I've got text messages. I've got text messages like, we can see you and we can see what you're not doing.
Well, we
so
can't like see
me.
you.
Yeah, but you can see my progress.
So
you can see my
you, but we can see your progress, right?
Yeah, I can
like
see how many times you logged in.
Have you logged in? Have you gone through the
When you
course?
did it.
So when we're working with people, or when we're telling people to do something, an assignment or whatever, we can see, did they actually accomplish the task? Did they watch the video in its entirety? Now, you could have been goofing off. You could have been playing in the background. I'm going to give you the secret, because, my son, he did some shit like, yeah, I did you brush your teeth? Yeah, I brushed my teeth. I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom right now. Went in the bathroom. His toothbrush wasn't wet. Hey, did you brush your teeth? Yeah. Why your toothbrush not wet? He put his head down. He's like, you didn't brush them, did you? No. So anybody out there, don't be like my son. That's a message to you. Don't be like my son. When I send you a text message and say, did you do the hip class that I told you to do, at least get the toothbrush wet.
Well, hold
like,
on, no.
Save yourself. Like, just put the video on in the background and don't do the shit, and then tell me that you did the shit. Like, at least cover your ass.
If the video is on, you might as well do the shit.
But here's a tip. Let's like habit stack that, right? So for those who are listening, who are struggling to do it,
Here you go, game.
part of it is building it into your day and your routine. So it might mean that the first week you're just doing the habit of opening up your laptop, logging in and pushing play. And just so that way it's like you start to create space for it. But eventually
capacity,
you must do it, right? Like that's the whole point. But I think like that is a good point. So if people are struggling listening right now and you're like, I know I should do it, because let me tell you, like this is it, right? It seems so simple to do and so simple not to do. And we fool ourselves to think that we'll make time for it later. We'll fool ourselves that, and then we finally do it. And you're like, what? Why didn't I do this all along? What I've been doing, I've been walking around here like Bernie Sanders for the past 3 weeks. And I do one thing for 15 minutes. And I'm like, am I standing taller? Am I now 5'4"? Like, what is happening? And you feel like an asshole. Like, And I do, like, that's my whole life. Like, literally talking about capacity, it's my entire way I live, I go through my life.
She said Bernie Sanders.
That's why, literally, it's real.
Feel the burn. Feel
My
the
dad,
burn, y'all.
my
Feel
dad
the
actually
burn.
was the one who
God
called
damn
it. My dad was like, one day he saw me walking, he was like, what's happening with you? And I was like, I don't know.
Was he wagging his finger too? Like,
I probably was. But yeah, you got to do, I mean, we just got to do it.
Can you walk the audience through? So let's talk about that habit stack. So like, how would you flush that out? First week, you might just turn the thing on and watch it, or even just start it. Then what would say? Give some examples.
So I would back up one hair, and the first thing is the reason why I found, and I went on a deep dive earlier this year, and my good friend Brittany, we both just started to nerd out around habits and the science behind habits, and the biggest way to ensure that you are doing the things that you want. One, you have to figure out, okay, what do I want to do? Why do I want to do it? Like, what's the real motivator behind it? And it has to be so personal and so meaningful to you that it truly makes sense. You can justify it. Because the problem is, we say we want to do something, but we haven't given it the thought of why we want to. So when we not have to do it, but when we attempt to do it, we can't justify why we're doing it. So that's the first thing. If you can't justify why I do it, then you haven't put in the work to figure it out. So either find a new dream or take some time and dig deep. Once you know what you want to do, then it's this idea of make it easy on yourself. If you know you're not a morning person and you want to do your mobility work, or you want to start to meditate, or whatever it is, it sounds cool to say, I'm going to wake up 30 minutes earlier and I'm going to meditate and do this. If you're not a morning person, you're not going to do it, because you know what feels better than waking up at 5:30 in the morning? Hitting your snooze button 50 times and waking up at 7 when you really want to wake up. So it's like be honest with yourself, and instead you stack it on something you're already doing. So I always use this analogy of like brushing our teeth, right? Like if you want to start something, right. Well, yeah, because like 9 times out of 10, you're going to brush your teeth at least once a day. I'm hoping twice.
You'd be surprised.
That's what I'm saying.
God damn. What the fuck? That shit's disgusting.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
How the fuck you can't smell it? You next to your nose next to your mouth. I can smell it over here. That's a bitch.
denial. Fear and ego kicks in. But no, like, okay, so let's assume that you're brushing your teeth twice a day. And maybe you want to start a meditation practice. You're not ready to do a full-blown sit down on a mat, eyes closed, everything's quiet. But while you're brushing your teeth, you can just brush your teeth and focus on your breath. For 30 seconds, congratulations, you're meditating, because you've attached it to something that you're already doing. And then it's thinking, okay, what else do I do regularly that I would do regardless? And for me, like I always talk about, I drink hot water with lemon every single morning. And I was trying to find the best way to do it. Like, maybe I'll do it and I'll sit down and do this. And I realized I'm always going to walk my dog in the morning. Like, I will always do that right when I come down the stairs. He perks up. And so now what I do is I walk down the stairs, he perks up. By the time I go in the kitchen, turn the hot water kettle on, leash, collar, we go for a walk, I come back. The kettle is right above his dish where I feed him. So the second that I feed him, I stand up, my water is ready, and it prompts me, get my cup, get my lemon, and there we go. And I can enjoy it however I want to. If I have more time, I'll sit at my window and just enjoy it. If I don't have time, I'll take 3 sips and enjoy that 30 seconds of it. But that's the key. So when it comes to doing our work, right, doing the program, doing our membership, it's where in your day can you fit this in? What are you already doing? And if you're not sure, then the test is, let me just open my laptop and press play and see how that feels. Let me do that for a week. And by the time it's done, if I'm still sitting around checking my emails, whatever, then I know I have time to do that, because I've done everything else but the actual thing. Time has been created. And once you do one habit stack, I think for most people that I've worked with on this, they gamify it. Now it's like, where else can I build healthy habits into my day? I'm not taking anything away from my life, and it no longer feels like a chore. But it one starts with like meaning, like it has to be meaningful to you so you can justify it. And also when you don't do it, because when you negotiate with yourself, you're gonna lose. So you have to make sure that it matters and you put into your schedule, it's not a chore. And then the great thing about it is it's so quick and easy to feel the benefits of it. And so when you don't do it, you feel the negative effects of it. And it's like, boom, I got to get back to it. So that would be my
That's money.
three-step
that is-
process.
That
That's
is
money.
money. I mean, that's one of the things. Like, I remember I used to complain that I didn't have time to read books, right? But the first thing is like, I liked to read certain types of books, and other types of books I don't like to read. So there's that barrier, right? Like, I don't mind reading a book, a fictional book, that is exciting and things are going on, but other types of books, it's a challenge, right? And so I knew that I wanted to read certain books, and I knew that it was going to be a challenge for me. So that's why I got into audiobooks. And now I can listen to somebody read it. I can do that at times where like I might have been listening to music before, but like honestly, I'm like, there's plenty of other times to listen to music and hear those sorts of things, but like for the most part, music can be pretty useless in in a lot of scenarios or situations, right? You didn't necessarily need music there. Music is a great thing, don't get me wrong, but I decided was a year ago almost now that I was going to start learning Mandarin, right? And I initially had this app, and I was using this app, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and I had time on my hands. And then when I ran out of time, I was like, man, I haven't gone in the app in a while. I haven't and it required me to be there and constantly pressing something and doing something, right? And so I'm like, that's not going to really work for me right now. Like I still have it. I still use it from time to time, but it doesn't work for me all the time. So I found another app, right? And one that has 30-minute lessons. And I'm like, look, it takes me 20 minutes to drive to the place that I'm usually going to for work. Maybe it takes me another 10 minutes to get to a secondary location that I usually go to, and 20 minutes home. So I should be able to finish today's lesson in my drive to work and from work. And the lessons tell you, it's best if you do these lessons daily, like back to back. And so it only makes sense that I continue to do that sort of thing. And, I have gaps because on the weekends I'm not driving somewhere, or I'm with my family. So I can't put it on and be like, yo, y'all got to listen to this, 25 minutes of Mandarin lesson. Y'all got to listen to this.
This one's hot.
Get in on this. So I usually miss like Sundays or maybe part of the day Saturday, but I'll just go back to whatever lesson was Friday, start that again on Monday, and then move through the week on the next lessons. And so I keep taking that step back, but going forward, step back, but going forward. And, honestly, I'm like, after a year, you don't know what you know until suddenly you're in a position where you're like, holy shit, I understood that. I go back to the first lessons from the very first level. Like, I'm on level 4 now. I mean, they're 30 days of lessons, right? It's taking me a year to get through them. Right? Only because I go back and I make and when I finish the 30 days, I'll go back to the first one and I'll go through them again. So I've taken a long, steady approach to it. But I go back to level 1 and I'm like, why are they speaking so slow? And I understand everything that he is saying in the conversations. And I'm like, this is weird because I don't understand anything they're saying right now. And I didn't understand anything they were saying when I first started that. So it's like when people say you can't do something or they can't do something or they don't have time for it, it's like, you know what, I'm done. Personally, I'm done with excuses. Like, get in there and get yours.
So this is my thing, right? Like, people, I think, I don't know how many times I've said this lately, but I've heard this somewhere where people overestimate what they can do in like a day, but they underestimate what they can do in a year. And you both had this where you take on a new person, they're like, I want to bench 300 pounds and then I want to run a marathon and I want to do this by the end of summer. And you're like, you haven't got off your fucking ass for the last year. You haven't done anything for the last year. Your shoulder mobility is fucking atrocious. You don't have a fucking hip, and you got tired walking through the door.
We haven't even started yet.
We haven't, yeah. I mean, you want to go and like start training for this. You don't have the thing to start to train for that, right? And you want to cram it all into 45 minutes in a day. That's not how human adaptation works.
And you only want to work out with me once a week.
Yeah, right. So it's
and do nothing else.
You gotta do something. You gotta do something every single day. Like if you, and for me, I don't have I like to read, but I can't. And I shouldn't say I can't. My opportunities for that are much smaller. So I know I'm gonna do aerobic work every day. So instead, that's when I listen to my lectures. That's when I'll listen to my books. But I think there is two sides to that. Like Richard said, I'm done with the fucking excuses. Like, get your shit done, right? And then you're like, well, let's do it this way. Let's think about it this way. This is a much more manageable way to do things, and it's a much easier entry point. And I think it just depends on who that is, right? Like, some people just need to hear that shit. Like, me, I'm one of those people, if I don't get it done, I won't be able to sleep, because at the end of the night, I'm still thinking about it. Like, I'm laying in bed like, shit, I should have did that. I should have did this. I should have did that. If you're one of those people, then you need somebody to be a hard ass with you. If you're not one of those people and you come from like a softer background maybe, or you just, you need to come in a lot easier or like gentler, then I think that's definitely, it's not going to work the way that we do it, right? But the fact of the matter is, habit stacking can work for everybody. It doesn't matter where you're at with that, right? So like, how are you approaching that, and where you coming in at? So for me, for a long time, if I have one of those people who's just like, it's not that they're not a hard worker, and it's not that they're like completely lying to themselves. It's just that they're fucking lazy sometimes, and I get it, right? So I'm like, hey man, when you go to turn on your coffee maker, do one fucking car. Next thing you know, he doing his car. It's like, oh, and I went to check my phone, and I was like, so why didn't you just do another car? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. Next thing you know, this motherfucker doing his whole car routine while he's waiting for his coffee to come on, right? So it's, when you said that, that's what made me think about that. Which makes me think, as you're waiting for your lemon water, you could probably do a hip car too.
I picked that up. Yeah. Well, actually, I do. It's funny. What I tend to do, I'm actually triggered. Like I use like an anchor. When I start to feel really tense, that's when I'll go into because it's like it's an opportunity for me to reconnect with myself. So I literally will, if I'm at Zoom on Zoom and I'm feeling really tense, because I can feel it all the way through my body, like from my right there. And so I'm like, okay, this is data, this is feedback. So there are also those times too where it might not be as regular the same time every day, but if I feel something that it's like a trigger for me, then that's another way you can quote unquote habit stack. It's just more ad hoc, but sometimes I'll do it multiple times a day because that's what I need right there. So that was actually really helpful for me.
So I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about tonal, because that shit was surprising.
Yeah.
And
it didn't surprise me.
It's not surprising.
I was like, why didn't pick Allison up? What the fuck?
It's not surprising in a sense that, like, I'm surprised that you got on there. It just came out of the blue, like, oh, that's what she been working. That's what she been doing. She gonna put on her Instagram that she, on a plane. She nervous about going down. She was in the airport, and I was like, what the fuck she doing? And then next thing you know, boom, I did this video shoot with Tonal. Look at my shit. Look all professional and shit. And I was like, oh, look at Allison. She big time.
Surprise. Hey, guys. No, honestly, this was like a year in the making. So this was...
Walk people through it. Like, how, because I'm sure there's somebody else out there that's like, how do I get on with these sorts of things? How do I get myself in those spaces?
I mean, I think it's a mix of... I think there's one, for me, my story is so weird. It's the weirdest thing. So Tonal came out it's been out for a while. One of my clients got Tonal, and maybe 2 Christmases ago, and he said, hey, I got this thing. Can you come by and help me? I don't really know. I'm like, okay, fine. So I go over to his house, and I see this machine on his wall, and I'm thinking to myself, you're trying to get rid of me. Like, that's like, so I was so annoyed, like, the stupid machine in your home, like, what is this? And so I'm there, like chip on my shoulder, and I'm helping him get it set up. And like the first 2 weeks, he would literally pay me to come to his house and watch him work out on tonal, to check his form, to make sure that he was doing everything right. So I'm just like over it. And then like the final day after we did like a 2 weeks of testing out, he goes, I think it would be so funny if one day I just turned on my tonal and you were on the screen. And I was like, yeah, that would be wild. Ha ha ha. 48 hours later, I get a phone call. And it's like, hey, my name is so-and-so from Tonal. Your name came up in a meeting, and we would love to talk to you more about this opportunity. And I'm thinking, what? So I'm like, okay, this is weird. So we have a few conversations, and the reason why it took so long was because it's technology, right? Tonal is a smart AI technology that goes up on your wall. It has different arms and attachments and everything. And it's really a comprehensive machine.
They owe us money too.
A
Now.
bunch of money. Y'all don't try to do kin stretch without us either. Don't start that fucking mobility shit. Cut that shit out.
Who knows? Let me actually.
There you go.
Yeah, let's see about
Upgrade
that.
your tonal.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah, so as I was being brought on for new talent, the system, the product was actually upgrading as well. So it was going from shooting in this small studio. Now they had a full-time studio. They were looking at the way, and the community is so great, so they're getting tons of data and feedback of what people want. So as I was coming in, they were always changing something. So it was really difficult for me to stay on par. So that happened. So I did like 3 or 4 test shoots, and then I knew that they were looking at other coaches as well. So I started hearing from the grapevine that people are test shooting. So then like my self-esteem and ego starts going down. And then COVID happens. And so now it's like, I can't even shoot. I can't even test. And it just was everything was put on pause. And I got to the point where like, you know what, never mind. Like maybe this isn't it. Like I got to learn a little bit more about how to be on camera, how to read a teleprompter, do all this stuff. This will serve me later in life. Grateful for the opportunity. And then about a week later, they said, okay, we're ready to go. It's different now. We have different protocols. It's safety issues. And then they launched me as the newest coach. And I think the thing about why I loved the platform is it goes back to me always wanting to be around people who are smarter than me and people I can learn from. And I can say hands down, it's like very similar to at Urbano, where like certain trainers, like you, like both of you, and Shelby and Ben, and like just like Ethan, like that whole crew, right? Neil, of like super smart people who can take something that's actually very intricate and complex and are breaking it down to teach people how to better use their bodies for what it's meant to do. And Tonal's the exact same way. That's the one thing. It's not a bunch of actors. It's not a bunch of Instagram models. It's not a bunch of hype men. I mean, the level, when we get a program, so let's say, for example, I'm doing a 4-week program right now that I'm shooting and filming for. The level of research I have to do, I have to have it approved by so many people. I have to have reasons for why I'm doing everything. And like, even when we're queuing, it's not just like, hey, you got this, go girl, get it. It's like, make sure that you're engaging your lats and why this is important. So our members, our Tonal users, are people who are curious about it. Like, they don't just want to get their ass kicked. They don't want just to sweat and whatever. They're like, I want to be stronger. And a lot of our users Peloton. And so a lot of it too, it's like, how do we ensure that your body is prepared for that posture, for those long rides? We talk about how you can use them together. So for me, I felt like even in this lull of being physical with people and training my clients, I'm still learning. I mean, right when we're done here, I'm going back and I'm going to spend probably 4 hours just reading and researching and validating why I'm choosing certain movements and why I want to do that. And that to me is why Tonal is cool, because yes, it's like you get professional films and video shoots and you're learning how to, you're getting full hair and makeup and you're getting flown to LA and Hollywood to shoot and do all these things. But me as a trainer and as a coach, I feel the past year has made me so much smarter. And like that has been the coolest part about it.
That's really cool.
For sure.
That is dope.
For sure.
I don't know why you was nervous going down there. They should have been nervous though. Like,
Well,
we got Allison Tibbs coming, y'all. You better get your shit
oh my
straight.
God, well, it's like funny now that I'm starting to feel more like the imposter syndrome is going down. Yesterday we were shooting and they played a joke on me. I was talking about like glutes and being all nerding out about it, and then there's one line that I'm like, I didn't recognize this from my pre-read, but whatever. And pretty much they wrote in, booty, 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 rocking everywhere, and I was like, y'all don't know me well enough to get all bust down Tatiana, but like I can go there if that's what we're saying. Is that allowed? So it's cool. Like it's also it's fun. It's fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm learning a lot, and it's just wild. Like this is a future. Like
Yeah.
who would have thought? Like you'd have this thing in your house on your wall, and I can front squat. I can like all these things that I miss. I can do. And the AI is so great that it has spotter, it has chains, it has eccentric mode, it has all these things. So I'm always progressing, and it just feels good to feel strong again.
It has an eccentric mode on there.
That's dope.
Yeah, it has an eccentric mode. And they're adding more things to it now to create that.
That's why as soon as they go public, I'm gonna be like, yo, let me purchase some of them. Because
my shit immediately thought to some training shit.
Oh man, like somebody said to me the other day, they were like, oh, so it was one of my clients. He was like, I was like, yo, I invested in Peloton a long time ago. And he was like, oh, wait, so as a trainer, you're not hating on Peloton? I was like, oh, well, I definitely hate Peloton, but I mean, that don't mean I ain't trying to, get paid. Like, shoot, hey, y'all making money? I'm making money. Let's go.
They said they had somebody instructing cars on Peloton. You heard about this shit? Motherfuckers should cut this shit out.
I heard.
Damn.
I heard there was some quote unquote mobility stuff on
that. And I think that's the thing too, where it's like and that's why I feel so good about Tonal. Like I think because other companies, brands did reach out to me as I was going through my process, and they were like, we've heard about you, we've seen you, we would love for you to come and do a test shoot. And when I would watch those products, I'm like, I can't guarantee that you're going to hold the integrity of this industry the way. I mean, like right now I'm going in a group chat and one of the coaches is sending her dissertation that she's doing that's all about like rehabilitation work and injury, like so it's like, and we're all giving her input and feedback and giving her ideas. Like I can't guarantee that's happening at other places.
Can't guarantee that's happening at Extend Bar where they're going to give you long lean muscles.
What the fuck is that?
With your that's what I'm saying. Like,
oh, there's another thing.
Oh, yeah. There's tons of people out there. It's like
they're saying
we're gonna give you long lean. You're gonna get long lean muscles with this.
So they're doing a lot of progressive angle training, then, right?
But I think also too, what I have to remember is that the market is going to supply what the market demands, right? And I think that's what I was like getting at earlier, where when everything first kicked off, we all retreated or we all moved virtually, right? So like I was doing daily IG workouts just to get my community moving and active as like here's a gift that I can give or whatever. And what I realized started to happen is that everyone was doing it. So it's like I'm now competing for time slots with trainers and people who don't even know what they're doing. And the thing that brought me so much joy was a lot of the feedback I would get from people. It was like, I've done a lot of things, but your workouts or how you cued something was so much more it really helped me. And I think a lot of those trainers who are going on social media, they started to realize that they can't sustain it because people could see right through it. And so if we're 6 months in and we're still here, that's a good sign, right? That we are giving something that people are now no longer looking for this one size model. They're like, how do I become well? How do I move my body the way it's supposed to be? How do I do this? And so I think that and people want to know why. Like I was shocked at how many people want to understand body mechanics. They want to understand, why does this do this when I do this? Or how do I use this muscle? And it's like, okay, like my faith in humanity improved or increased when I thought about that. It's like, okay, there is space for people like us in fitness. And the consumers of it are now getting a bit more aware of what's good stuff and what's not good stuff.
I would say our members and the people who follow us are smart. Not just for the simple reason that we feel if you follow us and you or you subscribe to what we're saying that you are smart for making that decision, but I think that the people who subscribe or follow or become member are like they're smart in the sense that they are able to somewhat sift through bullshit versus what's useful, but they're also smart in the sense that they realize like I actually want to learn. Like I have this body and I was never told what this thing is or how it adapts or how it and I've been subjected to years of what the media is telling me, what magazines are telling me, what all these different spaces are telling me. And now I finally have some people who are basically acting like my continued education college professor, where I may not have been to college or whatever, but these are my educators now. And like I'm continuing my education while actually doing something physical with my body. And that's why I feel like my clients are always going to be my clients. Like I worried not at all that somebody else will like be like, oh well, I'll charge you, $50 instead of, like I'm not worried one bit, not at all.
Remember that lady I told you about? So there was a lady that Upgrade Guys supporter, and we end up on a consult yesterday on Zoom. She's in Maine, and what you just said, we were talking about her knee. We just talking like we always. As a practitioner, I feel like it's always part of our job to educate the people that we work with as much as they're open to or if they want to, right? And if they're not, then at least give them the things that they need to know. And she was like, why don't they teach us this in school? Why didn't they teach us this in school? And she was like, and she's a smart lady, right? And smart person. And her work, she's a professor in graphic design. She doesn't do this work. But she could, but she could talk about it, and she could like she was picking it up, and she was open to it. And then when that thing clicked, when she had that spark, she's like, "Why don't they teach us about this in school? Teach us about this in school?" And I was like, "You absolutely fucking right. I have no idea, and we really should. Instead of having them lie to us about how the fucking racist ass white people did all this great shit for us, fucking bullshit."
So how
Why don't you teach us about what really happened in history, motherfuckers?
how has it been? So you left out of corporate. I know that you were with Equinox for some period of time, and you kind of moved into a leadership position there pretty quickly. I would say.
Sort of. I mean, I went through the ranks of being a trainer and going through the whole process, and then I left, and then I came back to do some work with newer trainers coming in.
Right. And you do also some stuff with some smaller companies and things like that as well.
Yeah. So and I think the shift for me happened was I think after the PTSD of working in a corporate environment for so long and realizing like, okay, I don't have to be a part of that, but I can be someone that can create more space for people to excel in that. Because like for a lot of people, that is what they want and what they love to do. And so I wanted to support people in that role. So I started doing a lot more working with companies and organizations about bringing wellness into their work. And not just from here are some stretches you can do at your desk, or here's how you can habit stack better nutrition or things like that. But also around how do we use the tools of our body, our voice, our eyes, our all of these components to elevate how we show up in the boardroom, in the workplace. How do we elicit more confidence? What can we do? How can we position ourselves to be? So it's almost this like high performance consulting work, working with leaders as well. So it's been a nice balance to take my corporate experience and things I did like about it, this wellness piece, and then that alignment piece around how does it all come together to be more authentic, be more of yourself, to be a better leader, a better communicator, a better a way to better access your thoughts and access your voice. And more so now, I'm actually working on a big proposal with a really large tech company for women's leadership development, but in a different way, because I think a lot of times all these, not all, but a lot of them are, how do we fix women? And it's like, no, 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 that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not going to say, okay, we'll do this, but it's where can we take what we have and create more of a presence with that and use it as leverage. So it's been interesting with that. And then of course, whenever you're in a corporate setting, people always want to talk about their knee injury. They want to talk about this. They ask you about, what do you think about coconut oil or whatever? So, you know, you have to do a little bit of that, but it's been interesting. I mean, it's funny. Like even when we kicked off this morning, you're like, oh, how should we introduce you? And it's like, I don't really give myself a label. You know, it's just like, I just truly am an advocate for people being well.
And upgrading their shit.
Yeah, because it's important and we get stuck. And so, you know, however, that's why I think about, like, someone asked me, where do I see myself in 10 years? And it's like, okay, in 10 years, I'll be 46, 47. And, you know, I know what I don't want to be doing. I know I don't want to be still running around and doing all those things, but my purpose and what I feel like I'm good at is truly advocating for people and helping them to explore what's possible and just to feel and be well. And, you know, how the world is changing with technology and, you know, just different things. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I still want to be a part of it in some way, in some capacity.
You sure do got a lot of shit going on, Allison.
Yes, that's why I'm all about self-care, because if I don't, I'd lose it.
Well, I mean, we're definitely happy to see, like, I mean, for me, it's like,
you deserve that shit.
With what's going on
all that shit
in the world, or what's going on in the nation, in the world, you know, I think it's important that more, you know, black faces, people of color are represented in these different industry, in our industry, but in on these different platforms, especially as leaders. It's particularly important that black women are represented in these spaces as well, and that, you know, that becomes like a norm, because I think, at least from what I see, is like, you have, like, let's just keep it real. When I say you're looking for long, lean muscles, what comes to your brain immediately? Like, if I say this will give you long and lean muscles, what is the image that comes to your brain? No, it is not. It is not a black woman. It is not a Latino woman. So this whole,
And that's so infuriating. Like, I've had so many women of color, and they'll come to me and say, they'll show me a picture of a body that they want. And it's this, you know, it's a body shape that, like, is genetically impossible for them to get. I remember one time telling someone, I was like, sweetie, you are Dominican. I know what your whole family looks like. You are all beautiful and wonderful. And I mean, honestly, like, there are people who would kill for your shape. And so let's focus on getting you stronger and moving better. And let's see what happens after that. Let's not focus on, because her thing was she wanted a thigh gap. And I was like, and I could feel, for me, it was so frustrating, because at first I was like, why is that the norm of beauty? And for anyone who has a thigh gap, like, also, like, I had one of my clients, she's like, I wish I didn't have this, because people will stop me on the street and say, oh, I wish I had your body. And she's like, and I will tell them, I can't squat for shit. Like, I get tired all the time. She's like, so you can have all this and you will feel like hell all of your life. And it's just like, being a black woman in this wellness space is something else that I try to be transparent. I try to be 100% honest about it. And also the reality is, like, at my age, genetics are on my side still. Like, I know that. I know, and I have to remind myself and remind other people. Like, yes, it's hard work. Yes, I do my best to take care of my body, but there's some things where I'm like, I know it's genetics. So, like, where's this level of acceptance of who we are as people? And the idea is, how do we upgrade it? How do we use it as leverage? How do we find ways to improve upon it? But that shouldn't be the end result. And so I think to your point, where I want women, I want black women, I want brown women, I want women of color to look at a studio, look at an exercise, look at a brand. I work with a couple of athletic brands, and it's like I want them to be able to pull up that brand's Instagram and see women that look like them, and know that I'm welcome here. My dollars are welcome here, and they're going to be respected. And so I think it's a fine line between like performative allyship and real support too. And so I've had conversations, and I actually have a coach who's been helping me on this, like a coach helping me on advocating for myself more and negotiating business. And I'll get an offer and we'll talk through it. And she's like, you need to push back more, because I know this industry. I know what a brand can pay you for this. And that seems like a good chunk of change, but that's a drop in the bucket given what they've done. And so it's interesting of learning that, because I wouldn't have known that and would have settled for that, and it would have been fine. But it's like, how do we normalize our differences for leverage in this industry? It's so important. So important.
Everything you just said too ties back to Rich's point in terms of needing to see, like, this is why representation matters, right? Because as kids, or as like beings in this fucking weird shit that we're living in, we get our sense of self not necessarily from ourselves. We receive what other people are saying. We receive what we see on the screen. We receive the pictures we see on the magazines, the toys we see in the store, the stories that we hear, the way that people say them. We receive these things, and then we form a sense of self. And that's backwards, right? So now we're forming our sense of self based on something that's built on basically white supremacy, because all this shit that's been colonized is what leads it to be these things that we're talking about now. Like, we are not represented in these places because we don't run that shit. We don't control that shit. And that's not because we're less than. That's because that's the way that this shit was rigged, right? So if you don't see yourself, like, if as like, I didn't grow up as I shouldn't say this. The picture that people see of an Asian male is not how I grew up, right? Completely different from that. And I'm I'm very thankful for that, because I see a lot of like the way that Asian people operate, and I can see where they fall into that bullshit. And part of that is you don't see Asian athletes. When you see Asian men on the screen, you see them the same way. We see Asian women on the screen, you see them all the same way. We always play the same characters, right? The women are hypersexualized, and the men are like the men are weak or subservient or like conniving, right? So then, like, not only is that you're cute, and if you're Asian and you're here, a lot of your parents want you to assimilate. They try to assimilate, right? So much so that they might not even have you speak the language, and that's fucking really hurtful. That's a fucking traumatic thing. But this is why representation matters. This is why we need to see more of our faces and more of our bodies and more of our more differences, like to be normal, because that's normal, right? I had to hold back because Rich gonna have to edit a bunch of shit out.
No, I ain't editing nothing. That was all important. I mean, we've been on that. The importance of allyship, particularly between the Black and Asian community, for a minute now, because like there's a lot of misunderstanding about and it's by design, that we are kept apart and separated because we are stronger together as one. And if one believes that it's superior to another, it's falling into the white supremacy and the systemic nature of that, which now seeps into all the ways in which we behave, right? With even in our own community, like colorism, right? Like, oh, I'm lighter than you, you're dark, so you like, I'm better. Like, no, that's like we fall into that trap of that was set forth and created for us to fall into, to keep us divided, as opposed to working together to strengthen our communities as a whole. So I think the more we get out there and the more we are represented, the more we are represented in a variety of ways, the more our different perspectives are shared and our different experiences are shared, the more people can see the diversity of who we are, and the diversity of opinions and diversity of ways in which we behave or act or whatever.
Like when we say representation, the representation should literally be us, not what shape, form, or model or mode they want you to come in, right? Because, like, let's be honest, in the back of us for like our age and our whatever for our lifetime, that's always going to be a thought that we have to consciously say, okay, well, how am I going to play this? Right? Because we have the conversations when everybody leaves. You got to talk a certain way. There's certain shit you can't say, right? So you got to make that conscious decision anytime you have an opportunity and think to yourself, right? Because I myself lost out on a huge fucking opportunity that was already basically given to me because I wouldn't shut up about the Black Lives Matter shit, right? And when I get the platform, I'm going to blast you motherfuckers. And you know who the fuck I'm talking about. I can't wait to have the platform to blast you motherfuckers. That's one main motivator for me, is that fucking thing right there. And y'all motherfuckers be ready, because when I come at you, ooh, that shit gonna hurt you motherfuckers. I'm gonna make it personal too, you bitch-ass motherfuckers. You go with that clean cut, I'm not gonna say shit about what's right. You stay there, motherfucker. Your time is coming, bitch.
It's one of those things where it's like, I've been approached since the George Floyd thing. I've gotten multiple, emails. I've gotten emails from people, and this one company sent the email came with a picture as well of their team or whatever, and there were no black people on that team, and they were like, we would like you to be involved with our product, and I'm like, but you don't have any black people as a part of your entire team, like of engineers or whatever, whoever these people are, marketing, engineering, whatever, right? So if you have no black people in marketing, guess who you're not speaking to? Black people. But you want somebody in the fitness space to be a face, right? You think that the way in which to like garner that crowd is to like put a black face on the end of the stick. And I'm like, no, the way to like influence that is to actually have conversations with multiple black people in your marketing department. There should be multiple, that come with a variety of things of saying like, this is how we need to speak to our community. And that's one of the reasons why, like, the posts that I make, like I was telling a client just recently, I was like, I made a post that said, you ain't shit without your homies. And it was all about the shoulder. But at the same time, like, I'm speaking in not only the language that I normally, would like to communicate. That's how I would like to communicate, right? But for years and years of education, I've had to behave inside of these confines and boxes. And you told me that the hip hop music and the stuff, the way that we talk to each other, the ebonics and all, that shit's bad. But, after listening to Kathy Park Hong talk about, in her book, Minor Feelings, talk about how the English language deserves to be bastardized. And the English language should be like taken and colonized and by us, by all of us, by the non-native Chinese speaker, by the non-native Latinx speaker, by the non-native English speaker, and this language should be taken back and used however the fuck we want to use it. And that, to me, was empowering. I was like, oh, now I can just like, and then at the same time, it made me think, because I've been in education, I've been a teacher, and I've, even though it was in Asia, I think about the students here, right? I think about all of the students who, like, we're not getting through to because we choose to continue speak at them instead of speaking with them. And if I come into a room and I speak a certain way, they're like, oh man, he's talking that he's talking that same shit, he's just like the rest of them. But if I come in there and I talk to them like I grew up where you grew up, like, I'm not putting on this front to speak to you in this way. I'm gonna speak to you exactly how you like speaking to your homies. And so when I make a post on Instagram that says it like that, it now has come onto their side of the fence and it has raised their eyebrows and said, oh, wait, what is he saying? Like, oh my God, I can't believe he's like, and then they're in now. right? Like you're in. And so now you're forced to listen to the conversation and listen to the dialogue, and you are more receptive to learning. And so I think that like that's the big problem with our industry, being able to speak. We're speaking to people not in the ways that they're best going to learn, but we're speaking to them in ways that we feel like they should, you should consume it this way, So, whoo, we got a lot in this podcast. My God, but it's about time to wrap up because I
got one more thought about what you just said about language, though. It's when we talk to people the way that they're used to being talked to, especially if you're a non-native, like if you how do I say this? If like you're saying non-native, original English speakers or whatever, right? Or even if you are, but you speak it in a way that's not traditional. It's like when you hear people talking to you, they're not talking your language, you don't really pay attention because you can't really vibe with that shit. Even if they're saying words you understand, the way they say it and the way they're putting it together isn't the same as what you hear and understand. And that's not about being smart or not smart. That's about humans gravitating towards what's consistent within their brain, within their neurological makeup. So that thing about like who are you talking to, who is your audience, that's important. And it's hard to like talk in a way that is not you. You know what I mean? So that is double for I think whether you're receiving the information or giving the information. Whether you're giving it, like, can you talk that shit or not? And if you aren't, like somebody else who can't talk that shit should talk that shit. And if you're receiving, like, it's harder for like that the marketing shit we just bought from Marty. Like he talks in a way that I get it, right? I listen to a bunch of shit where I'm like, I don't understand what the fuck this motherfucker's saying, and I would drift off after like 2 minutes. I have to bring myself back, and I have to listen to it again, right? Random thought.
I mean, no, you're absolutely 100% right because it's like, that's exactly how language is. I mean, I was just talking about Mandarin, right? I didn't understand a word of Mandarin, right? So everything that was ever said on the street that was in Mandarin, it did not, it didn't even raise my antennas at all. But now, like, if I hear somebody speaking, I might, like, pause for a minute and be like, are they speaking Mandarin? Okay, yeah. Oh, they speak in Mandarin? Okay, let me see what I can, like, hear out of that, right? So now you're actually switched on and tuned into the language and the communication. And I think, like Nat said, it's not about being more educated or less educated. The language has constantly been changed and constantly being evolved in every single country and every single space that a language is spoken. And, I think that it takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of us, but it also takes it also shows that we are more capable, right? So if we can speak in this way to an audience, but then we can speak in that way to an audience, guess what that means? That means that's something
I got range, motherfucker.
I got range. That's something you can't do.
Yeah.
Right? That's something you don't have the capacity to do.
Nope.
Right? You can't we've had to live in your world. Right?
But you can't survive in ours.
You can't survive in ours. You can't communicate effectively in ours.
You can't even stand up, bitch.
So I think this is like we've covered a lot of things from self-care all the way.
How you gonna title this podcast, Rich?
It's self-care. I don't know what we're gonna title it, but
shit,
we'll figure it out. But yeah, we appreciate having you on. We've known Allison for a few years now, and watched her growth and doing amazing stuff.
Killing
and I
shit.
think she was just chilling with Trap Yoga Bay, so I think we gotta try to get her on here right now.
Yeah.
Just send you a text message. Send her a text message back. Say, hey, get on with the upgrade, guys, because we trying to holler at you. Upgrade your shit. We're actually, we've got a long list of people. She's on the list.
Yeah. All joking aside,
because like our podcast, the importance of our podcast. If you go to our Instagram, the first thing you're gonna see is hashtag Black Lives Matter. So if you ain't with that shit, you can kick rocks. We don't give a fuck. I told my mom that just this morning. She was like, oh my God. And I was like, Mom, like, I don't want those people's money.
No.
Right? There are 7 billion people in this world?
Yeah, 7-something billion.
7 billion. Right?
Growing every day.
Right? Like, I'm not, like, look, in the last election, there were X amount of people that voted for Hillary. There's X amount of people that voted for Trump. But guess what? There was millions of them motherfuckers. So I'm like, I don't care if there's 300 million people who ain't rocking with it, because there's 300 million people who probably are rocking with it. And so that's where we're at, and we're about changing this narrative. We're about changing the face. We're about changing the whole energy and vibe, and helping the industry upgrade, helping the world upgrade, help people upgrade. So we want people to know about people like yourself. We want people to know about Trap Yoga Bay. We want people to know about all these different people out there who are moving our industry in a way that it needs to be moved, and moving the world, because we got plans to talk to people outside of our industry too. So just moving the world in a direction that we feel is necessary.
I just had another random thought. What if all the air was like molecules of air were like connective tissue, and all of the people are like ligaments, tendons, and muscles, and then when one moves, like you can't help but feel the movement somewhere else, right? Is that a thing?
I believe that.
I
believe
that's
that.
universal.
I truly believe that. We're all connected, and I think that's
Subatomic particles and whatnot.
yeah. I'm with that. I think that, and I think that's why I do what I do, right? Like, how do I create a shift? Like every day, it's like what work can I do on myself that can be a mirror for someone else to do the work on themselves, or to create a shadow for someone to feel that tension, to also want to make a shift within themselves. And it literally, because all we are mirrors and shadows. Like that's it. That's all we are to people. We're lighting them up. We're bringing it down. And I honestly believe it more so now than ever. I think people are just waking up to how to truly be in this moment, and like what's at risk, where, like, what value do I bring, how do I show up. And it does require us on all levels: physical, financial, relationships, personal, professional. Like literally, like the idea of upgrading your shit, like that's what it's about at this point, because we can't afford not to anymore. It was cool for a while, and now it's like, if we're starting to see the leaks in the boat. We're starting to see all the things happening, and it's like, okay, we got to do something different. And if we don't do something different, then we have a problem.
You better get your shit together.
Hey, symptoms, and root causes, man. And like that's where we're at right now. We're seeing symptoms of a deeper root cause, and so. Yo, it was so nice to have you on. So good to like.
We gotta do a part 2.
See
you.
Yeah,
part 3.
we gotta do part 2.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, we're hoping nothing but the best for you, and we really appreciate you as not only just as a friend and colleague, but as a professional in what you're doing. Just thank you for coming on. Thank you for being one of our supporters.
Thank you. No, it's good to know there are people like you both in the world doing what you're doing, and doing it unapologetically, because it's real easy to do the opposite of what you're both doing right now. So I appreciate you, and all your supporters, that get it, right? Like that's what's cool about it. That's what's meaningful, is that it's not just like that ego, but it's really coming from a place of doing the work that you're put on this earth to do. And it's been a joy to watch. It's been so cool to see both of you, and as individuals and collectively, what has been elevating every time that I connect with you both. So thank you.
Usually I have questions from Instagram, but nobody asked on my thing.
Oh, hold on.
But we ain't got time for you to look up your questions or not.
Like hour 3.
My bad. I got questions for you next time. Don't worry.
Yeah, but we'll ask you some questions next time. We'll have a part 2 down the line. Y'all stay tuned for it. But can you tell everybody where to find you at?
Sure. The easiest 2 places, I always feel so cheesy when I do this. Like the easiest 2 places, one on Instagram, it's just my name, Allison Tibbs. That's where I tend to be the most active, sharing the most, doing the most. And then my website, that's if you want to get in touch with me, if you have more specific questions, and have some things coming down the pipeline, though. So AllisonTibbs.com or at AllisonTibbs at Instagram. And I would love to connect and chat more.
Awesome. Thank you for coming on. And for the rest of you out there, we got 12-week hips course on the website. It's up, and you can get in on that. And also, we've got a 12-week shoulder course, which is launching next week. So if you're not on that already, better get on it. And we've always got the monthly membership where you can just get in and try classes out and do a variety of things. There's over 60 classes on there at the moment, and it's growing. And so the goal is to have so much quality content on there that it's just a no-brainer that you pay $39 a month to have that, because I mean that's like, 4 lattes with almond milk and whatever you like to put in there, like at them expensive ass coffee places. Or I mean, if you do drip coffee, that's like 10 of those or something like that. So either way, you can afford it.
Come through and upgrade your shit.
Come through and upgrade your shit. All right, thank you guys for watching. Peace out.
Upgrade your shit.